right, we are live. Bliss and Skyhorse, largest global, largest cosmic communications network for peace here. And we're just here tonight to share truth.
Yes.
And so Skyhorse is an epic star brother, epic friend, epic grid worker. Our whole cosmic family has really been dancing on these grids for a long time, and what we're here to share now is some of the stuff that we've been doing behind the scenes on this planetary body to help restore humanity's consciousness to a cosmic consciousness and to understand the truth of creation, the simplistic truth of creation and the structure of nature. And that the way forth for all of us on the planet is to align our consciousness with nature. And so Skyhorse is an incredibly gifted being. Let's just start talking about how this all came to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very long story, but we'll shorten it down. Pretty much doing lots of ceremonies, and I've always loved nature. And it was really between like 2011 and 2012 where just in dream world, in lucid space, Mayans were coming to me and bringing me through caves while war was going on to give me the last codex pieces. I was visited by angels, visited by like goddess beings to just like do things to my body to kind of align me to the divine feminine and the sensuality, so I could start receiving more information and more codes, because that's how we can access all those things. So I was living in Topanga at the time in like late 2011 and was receiving these things, being really also guided by like extraterrestrials that were doing things to me and removing things from me that were put into me as a child. And 2011 is like coming to an end, and it was very interesting that I was living with a number of women that were kind of self-imploding. And so my guidance was to go to Hawaii, where I could be nourished by the divine feminine, which is nature in its most lush form. And so in doing so, at the end of 2011, then I started to work on how to create geometry that was in the flowing nature of, curvature. And I had built a bamboo dome in like 2010 at Harmony Festival in Santa Rosa, and it was the seed of life. And once I built that thing, it was like, ding, the sparks went off. And it's like, okay, there's something to this. And for me, geodesic domes are made with straight lines and things are kind of wonky looking, because ultimately trying to create curvature but using still masculine linear technology to do so. So in creating a dome with bamboo, now I have curvature. So now, fast forward, living in Hawaii, I started playing with rings and things and discovered this very simple geometry, or I like to say geometry, because it's all built from circles. And then as I started to build this thing, I started to see all these ancient symbols: the flower of life, the world turtle, the Ankh, the Holy Cross, Star of David, endless of all these little codes that were coming in. So I built this whole thing, hanging above my bed, and I'm visited by 3 extraterrestrials that were opening up Kundalini and meridian lines on my body. And wake up in the morning, first thing I do is go to the computer, and it takes me right to the ancient Egyptians and the Hathors. The Hathors are the feminine beings that are all about sound frequency, light codes, and this is exactly what this is all about. So, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit right before that all happened, which is kind of important. So like 2 days before like discovering this geometry, I was visited by 7 Mayan shamans. They didn't speak English, and they're in my dream world, and they take me through the jungle, through a path, and lead me to this giant stone horse, ancient thing with like old red paint. And I just knew that, I'm Skyhorse, here's this horse. So I go up to the thing and hug it, and boom, blast light and vibration into my body in the awakened state, where I'm just experiencing this just incredible energy, and then back into the dream. And then I look up at the horse's head, and it has a broken off unicorn horn with a perfect laser etched sacred geometry symbol. So I know I'll put my third eye up there. Boom. In the awakened state, my whole vision is sacred geometry. And then back into the dream, And then one Mayan shaman who now spoke English said, "Do you know what just happened?" And I said, "I'm pretty sure, but tell me." He's like, "You built this thousands of years ago for us to bring you back to activate you now for what you're bringing through with this, the all sphere." So next day, I, in dream world, am now visited by Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla is showing me electromagnetic rings on a large dome scale, and they're all like electrically charged and moving and going, doing all these things. And so the actual discovery when I made this is on Nikola Tesla's birthday in 2012. And all the symbols of the numbers of when he died up to 2012 is 69 years, right? So the yin and the yang of what the 6 and 9 represent are the way that the yin-yang actually flows in a Fibonacci sequence from the top of the sphere around to the equator and then back around down to the center. So...
And this is all coming through on this 3-3-6 day.
Yeah.
So we have our 3, 6, and 9.
Exactly.
We are in divine perfection.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like just, your average day in the life of Skyhorse. And I'm guided. Illumina, can you I just want to make sure that this phone is charged, and I brought, here it is. Sorry, I don't want to cut this off, but I just want to make sure that we have power going because the guidance is like messaging me.
And simultaneously, so Nikola Tesla's birthday, the numerology around it is divine, and then the whole Mayan prophecy of 2012, right? So the 20 and the 12 are the geometry of what the all-sphere is. There are 12 pentagons.
And will show us the all-sphere.
Right, so
this is what we're talking
we've got
about.
Versions. So this particular one is called the eucalyptus sphere. So this is actually made out of all eucalyptus flowers at different stages of evolution. And there you go. So there's the flower. The white ones are actually the little caps that happen before the stage of blooming of the flower, and you can see then the brown ones are the after effect of different geometries that reveal themselves. So this one's a little more difficult, but where the white ones aren't, so like in the center of that is a pentagon.
Can you just hold that a little bit closer so the pentagon can be,
Yep, or I'll go to the one that actually has a pentagon.
Oh, okay, there.
So there you can see that there are the white ones, which are representative of the 20 circles that create the geometry. So there's 5 there, but as you would go through the rotation, you'll go through them. The 5 that's in the middle there is one of the 12 pentagons. And those pentagons are the toroidal vortexes that expand outward and inwardly, infinitely in all directions. It's the fractal geometry that creates nature.
So you're really tapping the structure of the universe.
Exactly. And, it's amazing that just with a eucalyptus flower that I was able to create the sphere. And that's just one microcosm of the universe, of nature, but I was able to do it with just this one little thing. So...
Okay, I'm getting so many shivers. And I'm going to say, if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting.
Yes.
So I'm getting shivers all over because what happens when you start accessing this kind of information? What does it mean to the consciousness?
Yeah, so so this was back in 2012 that I discovered this. So now it's 10 years later. The information, because it's infinite energy, continually teaches me more and more and more the more that I observe it and the more that I understand it just by observing it, right? It's get out of the head and don't think about it. Allow to just be blank, right? And it's all about tapping into our senses so that we can drop into where nature is, which is in stillness, in the subtle vibrations. And when we're there, we get out of our head and we have the ability to perceive and observe all these reflections that are happening that nature is infinitely gifting us to observe. Right? All the codes are there, the sounds of the birds, the sounds of the waves, the winds, all of those things, the visuals, which is the makeup of the geometry, harmonizes our ability to align our chakras, align our energies, all of this, so that we can operate within this field of energy in the most efficient and peaceful and blissful way. Right?
Now that's pretty powerful. And what I found really interesting, what you said in the beginning, was coming into that feminine energy, that sensual energy, is what allows us to connect to all of this. Is that really what you're saying?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we're in a world of this, patriarchal, conquer, compete, build, consume, 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 and build all this linear structures and all this stuff that isn't this like beautiful, peaceful, flowing energy. It's the complete opposite, right? It's speeding up everything, right? We speed up and then we end up dying really fast because we just rush through life. Nature is this amazing, sensual, slow thing that can grow forever. Trees, they don't stop dying, they keep going, and then they'll sprout out new ones like eucalyptus trees. They go whoop, and they go, and then keep growing. It's infinite energy, right?
So that patriarchal go, go, go energy is basically taking us away from our connection to free energy. Yes. What I just got out of that, because nature doesn't have a middleman. And the Western world that humans have lived in has this middleman structure. And this is what these love streams have been about the last few days, is to really help humanity realize that we live in a consent reality, and we're giving our consent to a middleman called money, called insurance, called real estate, called ownership of nature. And what you're really speaking about is you're sharing codes and a consciousness to help people understand that we don't need a middleman, and that we can actually, what I've been sharing is that it's just time for us to wake up and remove our consent, not because we're warring with anything, to recognize that we've consciously or unconsciously given consent to structures and systems that are not aligned with the structure of nature itself. Is that?
Yeah, we're giving our power away to other humans instead of the only real truth is that we are sovereign creatures. We're animals. Just like every other animal, we're born into this place from nature. That's it. We don't owe allegiance to other humans. It's that if we are truly understand that we are this divine connection and birthed from nature and all the elements of nature, that's what we should be praising and giving gratitude to, and all of our energy to, right? And so just something I was like that dawned on me recently is that, so part of this geometry, right, is that your feet are the terrestrial anchors, which are your pentagons of the earth that are connected to the terrestrial. Your hands are the cosmic channels that are tapped into all this light energy, right? And that's how all of our senses, our brain functions is all electrical. All of our electrical connections.
It's getting into this.
Yeah, so that's right. So all of this up here is like the balance of energies, right? And when I discovered, lifting your hands up, I went on a hike for 2 hours, and I put my hands up like this for 2 hours of just walking. And that night I was, what is the word I'm trying to blank? It's levitation. That's it. Flying, right? I was at a temple.
Wow.
And I was flying, and it was like downpouring rain, and I go running, and I jump off the outer wall. And right before hitting the ground, I look at the ground, and it's mud, and in my head, I think, oh my God, I'm wearing brand new white socks. And I go, and I put my hands up and stop myself an inch off the ground, and then I looked at my hands,
Whoa.
And the chi was activated in my hands, activated in my feet, activated in the heart. So like the movie Iron Man, right? He has all these chi points. That's how he flies around. This is exactly reality, and how we'll get to the place of being able to levitate and fly around when we get tapped into knowing how to use the electromagnetic field of the earth. So just quickly off of that, and like how I really know that this is reality, if you look at like a ballerina, when is a ballerina the most like nimble, lightest on their feet, or like these figure skaters that are doing like quadruple or sequential whatever rotations? They're reaching to the very tip of their all sphere.
Wow.
Because that is the farthest points of movement, which is the strongest part of the vortex. If you look at, let's say, sports teams, right? Your team gets a goal. What does everybody in the crowd do? Go! Right? They throw their hands up in the air because it's light. that's the energy, that's the bliss, that's the balancing of the energy. It's not dense. So next thing is that, right, this is where we're getting into like the patriarchal, like the control part now. So if you look at, let's just start with Hitler. How does he wield energy over people? If you can see me in the thing, I could do that, right? Hi-ho, Hitler. If you look at other presidents, other, right, leaders of things, they have their hands up like this. If you look at a DJ and he's trying to vibe up the crowd, they have their hands up here. This is like puppet master how to control and wield energy, because you're tapping into the higher frequencies, right? It's the subtle, stronger frequencies. So the liberation is to really open this up and open up your heart and open these channels up and to zero out and become really sensual with energies, to allow the cosmic energy to come in and how to push it out. And it all happens with breath, how to tap into our heartbeat so that we can feel the natural rhythm of the earth coming through us, because we are it. We are part of the beat of the earth. And then grounded in our root chakra. And when we get this holy trinity of energy going, that's the stabilization of our all spheres.
Wow. And so city electrical grids basically take people completely out of
Scrambling. It's completely, it scrambles all the things. And it's why there's, right, we have excess mind chatter. It's not even ours. Yeah. Most of it, there's so much flying around from unconscious actions and things. And that's why it's so important to do sound therapy or sound healing, aromatherapy, anything to get us into, right, things that we can feel and are here and not here with false visions and illusions that are dictating our movements in life.
And dictating the physical body, really. Exactly. Like when you say dictating our movements, people, we're coming together to begin to share with our family expertise from different members of our family of how to get into the body, how to get into our avatars, how to become fully conscious, physical, non-physical, simultaneously, wake up the remembrance of the truth of who we are. How, I mean, your journey and your story is so remarkable and so incredible, and I love hearing it every time. And I remember the one time we went hiking, you told me about this, and so we hiked like this. That's how we did the whole hike. Yeah. And what has worked for you? Like, I mean, because people, when they hear all of this, they really want to know, like, basic stuff to help them. And that's what people always say to me, because I'm, like, so expansive. And it's like, can you just give me the basics? So...
Yeah, so I mean, really all of our unlimited power comes in our ability to be aware of our breath and lengthening and being observant of how long and slow you can create your breath. And if you have to put your hands on your heart, that's the next move, is while you're breathing and breathing really slow inwardly so that you can feel your heartbeat. There was years, I mean, it's really not until like more towards the end of 2011, I could put my hand on my heart and not feel my heart. And it took so much like healing and forgiveness and trauma, clearing in order to actually just do this and feel it.
Wow.
And so slowing down the breath and feeling simultaneously while you're being observant to the energy that you can feel going in your nose or in your mouth, to feel your heartbeat and the rhythm that's happening. As the longer you can slow your breath down, you can feel more of your heartbeat. And then you can start to get into where you like just start making a hum sound while you're, breathing, making the longest out breath. So when you do that, you'll find that your heartbeat then starts to dictate the vibration that's coming out of your mouth. And the more you can slow down the out breath, the more you can find your natural harmonic, beats that is just part of the cosmic beats. And that, I mean, aromatherapy is huge. Like, I put scents right there so that I have the ability to just, as soon as I breathe, as soon as I smell that smell, I'm present, right? And it's the same thing with the breath. It's like, how can I engage and take action in creation in my senses? right? And that's like where the hands, like up here, sports athletes and things were artists, musicians, we're active with the hands, right? We're doing things with this. That's the creator. So engaging in life, taking actions in life, and becoming a creator instead of sitting idle and not participating in your creation, right? It's like letting other things dictate your creation.
Yeah, and I think people aren't really even aware that other things are dictating their creation until they start to feel pain. Like that's what, for most people, that suffering where you said you had to do all that clearing of your heart and forgiveness and all those things. So it's like people reach a certain point where they have a crisis or they have dis-ease in their body, which people call sickness or illness and that sort of thing. And then they start looking for answers. And so in your own personal process, can you share a little bit about kind of like, were you always awakened? Were you always having these incredible experiences? Was there something that occurred in your life that started to open this all up? Can you kind of share that part of the story to assist so people can like feel safe and trust the hero's journey of...
Yeah, no, it was definitely not always like this. I mean, I was always bullied on and picked on as a kid growing up, even through high school. I didn't have a growth spurt until I was pretty much out of high school. So I was always getting bullied and shut down. And I was reading things about like the 13 moon calendars and the Mayan calendar and how energy and frequencies and all this goes. And living in the Midwest, I'm from Wisconsin, so everyone was shutting me down like, you're nuts, right? Everyone. And it's like suppressing, right, very suppressing energy of like what I felt in my core was truth. And so then it wasn't until like moving out of that, right, taking that bold move to be like, I'm done with this, it's killing me, right? I was in my super depressed. I was living in Chicago, making tons of money, super depressed, not good. And so I just was just like, okay, boom, I left. And I mean, I had a couple really big resets in my life where it was just like, the universe does things to you. And it's like, okay, here's another shot from a different perspective, right? And now let's try again. And then it was like in 2008 at Burning Man, right, I did LSD for the first time. And that right there proved to me that everything that I had studied, believed in, knew to my core was real and absolutely spot on, like this is life. And then I got introduced into sacred geometry and these things, but it was really... once I made those big leaps of like leaving the Midwest and leaving the old, the stuff that was suppressing what my heart was really calling, and I did still, even in 2008, I didn't really know what my heart chakra was. I didn't know anything about chakras, and it was like living in California and like with amazing people, everything was just starting to guide myself because I stepped out of, I stepped into the uncomfortable, right? And that's, I think, the secret is to get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Get out of the normal thing of, I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch TV for 4 hours, right? We have to break cycles of programming. And that's the biggest thing. And, I mean, I've drank hundreds of ayahuasca. I've done diets in the Amazon, combo, lots of things. And the more I do it, now I haven't trained medicine in like 3 years, but what it does is really helps to distinguish between what is your ego and unconscious and illusionary things, and what is my core and what is real to my heart. And to clear those things out, release people that are no longer, that are energetic drag, right? People are vampires, literally dragging your energy back because they're at a stage of their life. And if we can, right, the biggest thing is be like, cut that cord and be done with those people, right? And when you do that, it's just like removing clutter in your house. You make room for something better and new. Like, I'm a minimalist. I love just very specific, sacred, geometrically positioned things. Energy flows amazing. The same goes with people. Mm-hmm. Like, you keep the core, incredible people in your life, and then more beautiful things can come into your life, right? Always quality over quantity.
Yeah, these are all like really great things to share with our human family right now. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. And it's really, I say that it's the path of the courage of the human heart to overcome.
Yeah.
And to really trust what we're feeling inside. And because we've come from, in the fictional fiction, systems of such deep indoctrination and suppression, brutality, and force, that's how the systems in the fictional fiction were kept in place. In school, if you speak out, you get reprimanded, all those things. When children go into school, they're extremely creative, and then they're put into a desk and told to sit still, and school is inside, and all those kinds of things. So it takes courage to overcome all of that. And then it takes courage to overcome what our families think, what the people closest to us think. And so it's really like we're sharing all of our stories to say we all had to make these choices in our life. We had to choose to really look at the world in such a way that it didn't make sense. That for me, people would say, like, we kind of think you've lost your mind. When I started doing grid work and going all over the planet and completing my great life, and I was like, well, dropping bombs on innocent people is crazy to me. So if I have to look crazy to you, that's okay. I'm going to keep going because I'm not giving my consent to that. And so what do you have to say to, especially like the masculine on the planet? Because what you're saying about like the structures are very masculine and linear, and this sensual nature with sensual energy with nature and the feminine, and coming back into that, like how can men feel safe to do this? Because men have been so indoctrinated to be disconnected to their heart, which is the largest electromagnetic field of the body, which then taps us into the cosmic energy and all this wisdom. That's how you accessed it, when your heart open. What can you say to the men, to the boys, to the masculine, to the brothers?
Go to the spa.
Get your nails done.
Start doing, like like a sauna, right? And we start to go. Oh, gosh.
It's all good.
Start to do things that can help soften our hearts, right? Go to the spa, get massages, go to sound healings. It's like, right? What do I believe many men at our core, right? We want to be soft. We want to be, around other people and other women that are just in such a soft, beautiful place, that we have to step out of these very masculine, dominant, controlling situations and go to somewhere where we can like lay back and relax and do things again that are at first may seem uncomfortable, but until we do them, then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I've been missing out on this because it's awesome. And there's like 30 other babes in this room because they are all on the wavelength of like sound healing and aromatherapy and things that feel incredible. Of course I want to be around that, right? And I mean, me personally, I love flowers. I love rainbows, all these things that are this beautiful nature, right? Who doesn't love nature?
Yeah,
right?
And it's really hurtful what has been done to the masculine on the planet, where the masculine was so, in the fictional fiction, was forced to disconnect from the heart. The corporate systems, survival of the fittest. Sports fields were a representation of the battlefield, and the battlefields were the deepest, darkest places where the masculine were pitted against themselves and told that that was normal, and given the notion that it was patriarchal and that it was standing for life, when it was really all about death and destruction and all those kinds of things. So it's deep, deep programming. And it's like it's painful. It's been painful for the feminine on the planet to witness the repression of our masculine reflections. And the feminine on the planet has been working so hard for this version of ourselves to come back to that softness. And it's said in the genetics that the feminine nature is actually returning to the planet through the masculine heart, because the masculine's reconnecting. So one of the things you said is be okay with the uncomfortable. And that was really big on my path. Be okay with the unfamiliar in every moment. And how can the masculine, because even if a masculine goes to a sound bath, like a lot of men, that's still like to do one of those things. You know, I talk to a lot of partnerships, and we see this in a lot of partnerships, like going through huge transformation where maybe one person wakes up before the other, and a lot of it has been the feminine waking up before the other, and, you know, women inviting their partners along to these kinds of awakening sound baths, whatever. Like, so what is that? What are those things that can help men break the patterns, like to actually get themselves to the spa? What things can we say to share to just like assist in that way?
I mean, one of the big ones that has really helped me is like doing mirror meditations. So you look at yourself, you look into your eyes in the mirror and breathe and relax and see what emotions and things happen and be real. It's just you. There's no one else in the room. And you know, our minds want to like take us out of that situation and like go somewhere, do something. And it's just us. There's no one around. And allow your emotions to come through, whatever it is, right? Because as a man, right, we're taught to be suppressed of emotions, to be competitive. And it's the furthest from the truth. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's like, yeah, that's one of the biggest things. I mean, being in nature and finding things that are creative outlets, and to get into nature and find our inner child and do things that are inspiring to others, that inspire ourselves. But yeah, to play more. Playing is absolutely imperative for infinite energy and for our return to the balance of the forces of nature.
I like to say the powers instead of the forces, yes, the powers of nature.
Well, use the force, don't enforce it. But enforce it.
So mirror meditations.
Yeah,
that's
very
awesome.
Powerful.
Yeah, because the ego projects onto things outside of itself. So the mirror meditation, you're saying, brings you back to just you and you.
Exactly.
So you realize there's nothing to project on. Projection is one of the things that keeps people bound in the trap of egoic relations, because it's basically just two egos going at each other, and eventually they just wipe each other out.
Yeah.
And so that piece about where you said when you did plant medicine, when you had your first experience with LSD, you realized everything that you knew was real, and you could also witness the mechanisms of the egoic construct, which is what this transmission that we bring through is always helping people to do, is to become more of the witness, become more still inside of the self. Are there ways that you recommend for the stillness? You shared the breath. Are there other ways? Because once we're still inside of ourselves, then we can observe those patterns and behaviors. Are there things that you love to do for the stillness?
Yeah, so other things, the breath is huge. The either humming, right, and slowing that breath down so you can tap into that. Even just hearing, right? If I go out into nature or listen to the ocean and I just, you know, do my best to, it's the discipline, right? To be able to stay focused on the thing, on the task at hand, mm-hmm. right? And to not be distracted by the infinite distractions that are out there. So it's like, I'm going to go to the ocean and I'm going to listen to the waves. That's the goal. So you go there and you meditate and you listen to the waves. And then, of course, your ego is going to come in and distract you, and you're going to be diddly-doo. You know, the important thing is that you catch it, right? That's the whole process of unprogramming, right? And as we unprogram, we get back to the sensual, right? And that's where, like, the mandalas or the chakras become visible to our actual naked eyes. Like, I see sacred geometry all the time. It's just natural what's in me. It's in everything. And the more we can, right, clear all that head space out. So, right, that's one way. I can also, like when the sun's kind of getting down into its sunset stage, same thing, looking over the ocean or just like gazing at the sun or like just below it or just above it. Same process now with your eyes open. It's the same thing. You're going through the breath and your focus point is to stay gazing on that point. And you can do that with anything. But what you're doing is you're just training your senses, right, and your consciousness to keep attention, right? You're staying at attention. And the more you do that, that is how you fortify staying in the divine presence.
So it takes practice.
Lots of practice.
Lots of
and that's
practice.
The whole thing is like practice, 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 just like any sport, whatever, anything, right? It just doesn't happen instantaneously. That's not how the universe works. It's a slow process, and the more we keep doing it, right, it becomes easier and easier, and then eventually we get to where, you know, the mind isn't just so insanely crazy with so much stuff that, right, the anxiety is just, we get to where it's like, here comes the ego. I can actually see it coming from like points.
Away.
Yeah, I can see it. And then it's like, and you let it go through. You don't stay attached. You stay present with the things that, you know, learning through the years. So, right, those are the things. And for me, it's like, you know, the forgiveness stuff. So it's like thinking of people who trigger me, who have triggered me, who have done things to me, things I've done to people, things I've done to women in my past when I was a stupid, dumb drunk, right? We look at those things, envision being there, and go through, you know, I forgive myself for doing this, I forgive that person for what I feel from what, you know, I experienced in that thing, and that's how we start to remove these blockades in our body that are the disease. And so there's a lot, and it's not just this life. You know, some of us have many, many thousands and thousands of lives. And all the ceremonies I've done, it's like there are things I'm doing for the collective and tribes in Africa or in Antarctica or wherever, all over the place. And it's that we're doing the work to heal those aspects for the collective and for ourselves so that we can more easily and effortlessly get back to our beautiful, peaceful center.
Yay! Oh my gosh, it's such beautiful sharing. This is like so remarkable. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. And Facebook, we're so happy for you to open the channels for us, so you can just let these sharings just flow. It will be to your benefit, Meta. So. I mean, this is such awesome sharing. One of the words you used is distractions. The distractions is such a big piece. In the genetics, distraction is actually one of the 3 shadow frequencies that will stop people from ascending. So when you share, like, just go to the beach and choose something to focus on and stay focused on it.
Yep.
One of the things I was tuning into when you were sharing is, like, one of the things we've all had to remove ourselves from is distorted relationship patterns with primary partners. And so one of the things that one of the indigenous prophecies, the Hopi prophecy, said was, at this time, men and women would tend to live apart. And what they were telling us in the prophecy was that we were going to have to allow spaciousness for each other to find this peacefulness within, to transcend those push-pull relationship dynamics that we were in. And, you know, I've really felt that when you were sharing what it took for you to go to the beach and just focus on the waves. And did you find like you had to navigate that in relationships to carve that time out for yourself and really be a stand for yourself in partnerships where you just had to like say, no, I need to do this for me?
Oh, yeah. I mean, one I find is a very funny one was where I was like in back pain, right? And my partner at the time and we were like literally in a circle in like kind of ceremony at least / talking. And I took a chair and I put the chair. Everyone else is on the ground. And she's like, can you sit on the ground? I'm like, no. And it's like, right? She's giving me like the eye and the energy of like, you need to get this chair out of here. This feels really good. This is where I'm staying, right? It's like, hold your own. If it is your core, hold your own. And I've learned this in ceremonies too, where it's like, I'll just share one ceremony where I was basically like the chief of this tribe, and we were like Vikings of sorts, but it was very interesting, like polar bear energy. And so we were fleeing basically our whole village and tribe being wiped out. And I had the boat, and I had whoever was with me, that was it. We had to leave. Because if we didn't, our whole tribe was gone. So from like off in the peripheral, right, I could see and feel the people on the shore that were going to die. There's nothing I could do about it. Begging and screaming and yelling for me. And I had to stay. That's where I had to go, right? And keeping that focus, knowing like if I get distracted, that's it. Lineage done. So that was just like I'm right now.
I know, I'm totally in it with you. Right, I can feel it.
It's just one of those, right? That is the whole thing, to know your core, know your truth, and that's it. Like, I am connected to the divine. That's it. And like other energies that are coming at me that aren't coming from that place of like peace and sovereignty and understanding, and that's not my problem. I'm going to hold this frequency right here. The rest of it's going to bounce off of me, right? I can call in my angels and my guides, and all my space around is protected.
And this space that we're talking about is like coherence. We're going to go back to the all sphere too, but this is also good. This space is about coherence. When you were just sharing this piece, I was being reminded about the Celestine Prophecies, and so this author, basically predicted that the time of change was coming, and he also wrote in his book about how the systems the forces that knew the time of shift was coming, and so they put a lot of things in place to like up the ante on fear to keep the vibration low. So there's this scene in the Celestine Prophecies where some of the people have figured it out, that they need to all hold coherence, and they're learning about energy exchange, and they're learning about masculine and feminine, and how energies combine, and how to hold our field, which is what you're talking about. And when a group of people have the capacity to hold their field in the book and the movie, they're being chased by the military, which is a reflection of a vibrational frequency. And they're in such a coherent field, these three people together, and there's a rock in front of them. And all of a sudden, the field starts to shift, and they see letters on the rock, and it's some other language. And the woman says, and you can see she's not doing it through her eyes, she's doing it through her heart. She says, I can read the rock. I can read what's on this rock. And as she says it, all of a sudden the field in front of them shifts, and there's a waterfall, and it's beautiful. And the whole scene is changing and transforming because these people have unified in sovereign, coherent fields together, which the fiction systems, this is why Divide and Conquer was sold on a fictional planet called Earth, to keep the vibration such that it was both low and push-pull and warring. That's why there was so much distortion in sexual energy and sex cells and all these kinds of things to keep divide between masculine and feminine, and so on, because when you get people who figure it out and learn how to collapse the polarity into neutrality, which is what is at the center of the all-sphere, and hold that coherence together, then we basically ascend from that vibrational world. And so in the scene, all of a sudden people that have guided them start appearing in front of them, and they're going, keep coming this way. And they say, like, don't look back. And this is one of the stories in all of the mythologies. Once you wake yourself up, don't look back. Don't try to rescue anything from those vibrations. When we be the coherence, we shift everything for all vibrations. And so we're not out there trying to fix or getting involved or pulled into those push-pull dynamics. We become one with the field. And so in the film, the military comes and the people get a little bit thrown off, and everyone goes, no, don't look that way. Stay in this coherence, which is what you're saying. Go listen to the waves. Stay in the coherence. When you know your truth, even if a partner or a family member or someone is reflecting something otherwise, this is a very sovereign path. Ascension is a sovereign process. And it benefits all life. That's the most important thing to understand. Is people might say, oh, you don't care, you're not compassionate. It's like, no, coherence is actually the most compassionate thing we can be. And so in the film, the military brings this little 6-year-old girl out and they're shaking her up. And then the people who are holding coherence in the new world is in front of them and they're stepping into it. They get distracted back into the old vibrational energy. And then all of a sudden the new world dissolves and they're back in the old frequency. So this is essential for us to be sharing as a family, how we all did this personally inside of ourselves, how we just said no to certain relationship dynamics and we learned to hold coherence. We learned to transcend distraction of lower sacral energies. We have navigated back to the core cosmic principles of creation, where coherence, stillness, neutrality is the number one key. And as many of us are now coming forward to basically emanate that energy, and we're coming together as groups to emanate it, it brings transformation to all life. And so there's a lot of sharing to now come forward from our family. So back to the all sphere, back to the incredible experiences that you had, because everyone wants to have those experiences. And that's what people always say to me. They're like, how are you so connected? And how do the transmissions come in? And why don't I have that connection? How did you... What really started to bring that connection in? Was it like, for me, it was like, I was always awakened, but then it was projectile. How can people get to that place besides coherence, besides transcending the patterns, besides, learning how to breathe and focus, remain focused, remain clear, have the capacity to observe the ego? What opens the world to these kinds of experiences?
All of those things.
All of those things. Perfect. It's a great answer.
And for me, the geometry, right? The geometry of the all sphere is what has really been the big opener for me. Mm-hmm. Because that I understand that geometry, and I understand that I'm that geometry, and that nature is that geometry, and doing, right, like yogic poses or like certain kundalini movements and things where we know that this is this supercharged vessel of infinite potential, and then how to do things that harness and balance those energies. So I do just eat simple stuff like that, where I'm breathing into that, where my hands are out here and I'm breathing into my hands and feeling my physical body. The biggest thing we can do is to feel our senses. So that if you feel your senses, that means you're not projecting outward. Mm-hmm. There aren't illusions coming at you. You can get more control of your mind. That's the biggest thing for me. And I'm someone who has had a lot of physical pain in its body from huge crashes, snowboarding, lots of things. And so focalizing on pain and breathing into the pain through your mouth, out your mouth into that pain, and releasing it like you're using your out breath to blow those blockages out.
That's a huge one. People in the fictional fiction are designed to, or we're going to say manipulated to, go away from pain rather than into pain. Yeah. So have you found that physical pain or sensations in your body has actually been a way to break through by going into it? So
that's the secret. There's all pain in the body is to focalize, right? And that's the same training. You can do the exact same. You don't have to go to the ocean or have trees or anything. You have your body. Your body is the ultimate tool to awaken. You don't need anything else. That's the whole thing, is that you are it, right? So pain is an incredible thing to come to peace with it. That it's there. Now, love it. Give it attention, right? And keep just breathing with it until it dissolves. It might not happen overnight. It might not happen in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. It probably is getting better, though, because you're putting energy, you're putting loving energy and clearing energy into that density. Mm-hmm. It's all about vibration. So your thoughts are vibration, and if you're focalizing and using your creative potential to create the vision in order to penetrate into the pain or into whatever it is, emotion, to clear it. That's one of the grand secrets.
And emotion, I'm just noticing one of the kisses is...
Oh, I think if he wants to be...
Perfect.
I'm a sky horse. Like, let's just hang on. There we go.
It's so cute. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Oh, perfect. That's the one that rests on my chest every night too.
There we go.
Emotional pain. That's a big. So sometimes people work with physical pain, but they're afraid of emotional pain. Yeah. And so it's like we have to go into all these areas of our life. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
It's ultimately all one.
It's ultimately
right?
all
because
one.
Here we are. We're this one being, but we're made up of infinite things, right?
Greatest technology ever.
Yeah. Right. And like part of what we were saying, right, about the patriarchy is like it's designed by these, energies to distract you. Mm-hmm. Everything is a distraction to keep you from knowing thyself. And that is the greatest secret that exists is study anatomy, study your body, right? Study energy, start feeling yourself. I do things where it's like, I just feel my thumb. I go through my fingers, I feel each of those, I put them together one by one and then feel each of those, right? So I'm training my mind to stay focused on feeling the energy and then feeling the combinations. Look the stuff up on the internet, mudras. Look up mudras and then actually feel the energy that happens. And we just, take your big deep breaths and feel. Do the aromatherapy to you're harnessing your inner space. And then once you get your inner space really dialed, then you can really start to project out your most grandest visions. And then when that clarity is happening, then those things start attracting and you merge with them.
I just had a grand vision right now because this question keeps coming, like we all want to come to Sky Horse's school and levitate together. And I just had this vision like of us doing like, an online once a week or something, like sharing and just like this becoming, there's so many people right now in our family that have so many gifts to share that for me being around our family, our human family, and simultaneously there's been a lot of people that have been going deep inside of themselves to explore beyond the systems, beyond the status quo. And so I just had this moment of going like, oh my gosh, like 3 days a week with Sky Horse. We're all going to be levitating out of the room.
I could share on that quick.
Okay.
Just in general.
Yeah.
So part of like my other things that I do is I eat local wild plants. So again, nature, right? Nature holds all the secrets, holds all the nutrients, holds the energy at the most supreme you could possibly ever want. So one of the things to study is your local edible plants, medicinal plants, and things that you can find. Like right now, like Malibu, when you drive the PCH, there are fields full of like wild mustard and wild radish, flowers you can eat, the whole plants you can eat. And when I do I make these juices, I'm doing a workshop, I think next week, and juicing these plants. And when you drink that cocktail, there's nothing, that's the most powerful thing you can put into your body. And the more working with the geometries and understanding how, the circles and cycles of life work and electromagnetic fields of plants and trees work, the guidance just comes in. It's like, right? If I'm going to eat that apple, if you have the ability to eat it directly off of the tree, you go up to it, you connect to the tree, and then you bite into it and just sit there and meditate because you are connected to the liquid in an electromagnetic field of a tree that has the capabilities of making infinite energy through the fruiting and then the infinite seeds that are coming from this thing. And how powerful that is to have the most tapped in vibration of the earth. Super powerful.
Well, and even when you're describing it, we're feeling it right now. Yeah. That's what's starting to happen because the field is so wide open in unity and coherence. As each one of us has explored our gifts and we're bringing them forward, we're all experiencing everything with you right now that you're describing. The apple, I can feel the vibrations in my body and in my arms and my hands. Yeah. And that beautiful relationship that, for me, that's really touching is the masculine. It's something, even though I always say we're not boys or girls, we're pure source consciousness in form, but to witness the masculine coming into that sensual relationship with nature and with life, and that honoring of life, the honoring of that energy of the goddess that is like super abundant and always producing, and where all the manifestation energy is. And like how that must have changed your life to really allow yourself to tap into that. Like, what I'm getting is it must make you feel whole again, to let go of all the rigidity, the authority that was indoctrinated into you, to come to that place. You must feel so free and whole.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible to just be able to just witness the miracles of nature, like, and to understand it, and to just observe it and see it for what it really is, and to be able to, I mean, I can understand animals, I can understand plants, I can hear them, because I've tapped into that sensuality to be able to perceive and receive that they're always trying to get our attention to just help us back, right? Get us back to, right, ultimately the divine feminine, masculine balance.
Absolutely.
And the more time I spend in nature, the more at peace I become. The more creativity flows. And that's the name of the game, right? That's where the whole pendulum is swinging. We're getting back to the infinite abundance that nature has for us. And it is. It's, right? We're this patriarch of like consume and destroy and war and just end the planet. These days, that's the new hashtag, everybody. Done with it. Right? We're done with the nonsense that has completely destroyed this planet, taking out the last of the prehistoric animals and the dinosaurs that remain. No. I want some rhinoceroses around. I want some tigers, elephants. And there's only one way to do that. Ending war in this conflict that is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, and the ending of the war is within the self. That's really where we do it from, is realizing that the egoic construct is bound into that push-pull. Yeah. And so we have to transcend that within ourselves. And when we do, it's why they say that Buddha was able to walk onto the battlefield and all the soldiers put their weapons down, because he was the emanation of something much greater. And that's the power within ourselves. Like, it said one avatar or one awakened being is more powerful than a million who are not, because we're really influencing the field. And that's one thing, if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. That's one thing to really understand. Like, it's worth it to reach that point of not compromising ourselves to give our consent to things that we know are not right within us. We don't mean right as in right and wrong, because that's duality language, but we just know within ourselves that space of what is right and wrong. And so that everything that you're sharing has really helped you to overcome your ego, basically. Yeah. And it's the ego that's at war. That's why on all the love streams I'm sharing recently, I'm like, these messages are for our entire human family. They're for every bloodline. They're for every, country. They're for all of it. And it's like no borders, no boundaries, no taxes, no passports, no middleman between us and pure source consciousness. Now, the consciousness has awakened in, they call it critical mass. We don't really like the word critical, but the consciousness is awakened. And so Bruce Lipton shared this really cool thing years ago. I saw when I was at a gathering with him, and it was a little petri dish with brain cells, and they had just been taken out of the brain, their neurons, and they were having an idea. When a brain cell has an idea, it emits like a flash of light. And so then the next brain cell next to it would then light up. And it was kind of like the wave at the football stadium. So this idea was being passed amongst all these brain cells, and you could watch them light up in the petri dish one at a time. And then Bruce gets really excited and he says, "Bub, watch this dish." And this dish, the neurons had been together for some time, and the whole dish went flash. And that's why we're sharing all of this now globally, and we're calling forth those who are lit up, those who have things to share, those who have lived outside of the systems, those who have made discoveries beyond the systems of indoctrination and so on, to just come out and share, because it's the moment when the petri dish is about to light up, and for everyone to find that courage within their heart, the courage that you're sharing about the journey that you've been on, and to just know that if you share your gifts, that one person might be the one neuron in the petri dish that creates the energy to light the whole thing up, and it's programmed in our genetics that we are going to go through a phase shift in the blink of an eye. So let's bring the all sphere back in here and talk some more about the dynamics of the all sphere to really open that up.
Well, here I'll share first though about what you're just saying, right? The time of like competition, right? Competition is okay if it's fun, right? If there's a good, but if it's like there's bad competition, a lot of it, and it's all about the future is cooperation, collaboration. How can we help each other to make a more beautiful experience for each other and for the planet and for the animals, plants, all of these things? That is like, right, that's the future, is what can we do to make this place better and more epic? Every invention has been taken from nature. Yet what do we thank nature? Do we, no. It's stolen. Steal the land, steal the things, steal the ideas from other people, and do these things where it's not harmonic, right? So we're getting out of this harmonic frequency, and we're stepping up our game to things that really make everything way better for everybody. There's more than enough of beauty to go around on this entire planet, so we're accessing that stuff.
And love.
Yes. Well, that is the love, right? Because the cooperation is the love. Hey, I've got an apple tree. Oh, I've got some oranges. Trade. Right? If everybody plants a fruit tree or a little plant, whatever that has, some peppers or whatever, some tomatoes, everybody starts trading, everyone has way more than enough food. Then you can start giving it to the animals, and then you can start being friends with the animals.
How do you think people step out of the city life itself when they're really bound to, all the structures, systems, the belief that we need grocery stores and...
Yeah. Everyone is on their own path, and everyone has to take responsibility for their own actions. And, we can only emanate and be our own light and share. That's the secret, right? And now we have all this social media, so our ability to expand the collective, awakening and how to become self-aware, how to step out of the cities, it's all available now. You just have to Google it. Now forget Google. Duck, go it. Duck, go it, people. So there's many options of ways to, right, get the tool. The tools are available now. Most everyone has the ability to access it. And just going back even to other ways of how to become more of an incredible human, right? It's like, there's little things that the universe, even if you have a really fast egoic mind, there are things that the universe will show you that can propel you to clear some of that stuff out. That lady across the street, she looks like someone could, open her door. Run over there and open it. If you take that little tiny thought that was Creator giving you an opportunity to do something beneficial for some other creature or energy, take advantage of it. Otherwise we'll be in our head and we'll be like, oh, I could have done that. I should have done that. Right? It happens all the time. It still happens sometimes, if I didn't make a move on something. But that's it. That's the practice. There's a piece of trash on the ground. Pick it up.
There is?
No. But, I do, this is one of my things. I walk the beach, on low tide for 6-7 miles. I pick up garbage. I'm not even kidding. Every time I pick up a piece of garbage, boom, there's the most incredible seashell. Oh, there's another one. Oh, here's a perfect football. There's an aerobie. I find all of these epic, magical things because I am doing something for the universe. It's called, right? You're giving back. You're creating an equal energy exchange, right? Instead of take, like the patriarchal thing is to take everything. Take your soul. I want your rent money. I want taxes. Give me all of your things. It's like, that's not really how the universe works, right? It's like, I'm going to plant a tree that's going to produce fruit, and animals are going to get to eat it. Humans are going to get to eat it. Lots of people are benefiting. And then that thing's going to keep growing and growing and growing and producing every single year more and more and more and more. So that was my quick little rant.
It's not a rant. It's like, this is all so incredible and beautiful. And what I also was getting, just about how as our heart begins to open up, there is a level of intuition. And so we're here with our beautiful friends Illumina and Machui as well. And how this
You've been so quiet, the peanut gallery.
They're so polite. But how this all came together with all of us, and on this 3-3 day, and calling at 4-4-4, and all the alignments. And so it's like what we called external technology is just like fun to play with our phones and our Facebook and whatever, or Meta. But the universe is showing us that, we are in a field of coherence. We are in that field of nature that you're talking about, collaboration, where it's like, in asking that question, how do people step out of cities? It's like all the steps that we've shared, as you say, because we become the field together. That's what we're discovering now. Like, the world is our oyster. We can create whatever we want because we didn't even have to phone Machui. He just knew to be here today and sent us a message the moment that we were sending sharing a love stream, taking down an old...
He was right where we were.
Taking down a pillar of the old establishment. And a man happened to be climbing on it at the time and all of that. So it's like, just... that's the joy, that's the value, that's the privilege, that's the benefit, is that we really restore ourselves to the true connection with. And what happens in pod consciousness, we don't really need to eat food. Food, in the physical realms can be an enjoyment. When we move into these fields of pod consciousness, the field is so expansive that everything changes in our awareness. Like, time is gone and we're not hungry anymore, and we're just like back to that place of playful children in the garden where we're just discovering now. Like, I feel right now in this conversation with you, I'm just so tuned in, and I can tell that Illumina, all four of us are just like tuned into to the field together, and then something begins to shift inside of all of us where we're having these great sharings, and the field is doing something simultaneously where we start to go like, I don't know, I feel like there's something happening all around us, and that's this magical connection that you're speaking of. And I feel maybe is the dynamics of the all sphere, and if we could share the all sphere again and just kind of share like the effects of the all sphere in the field.
Well, part of it too, I'll just show, like, just from me or any of us, right, as a human body, how we are each individually an all sphere, how everything's an all sphere. So, right, like I said, it's built of 20 circles, 12 pentagons. Those pentagons, right, we know we have pentagons. Our body is a pentagon.
Can we just remind people what a pentagon is in
case they 5 pointed stars. So, right, we'd have 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses, and, we're made up of circles. So, right, we have these pentagons, and these pentagons are vortexes, right? They move. And then we know where the golden ratio, right, the golden means. And so they break down, and then as you get to your hands, right, more of this fractal unveiling happens where now you get into these joints and you get into individual fingers, and it shows how these vortexes of pentagons fractal out. It's, that's the same thing that nature does. If you look at a tree, right, the branches are going up, and then they fractal off, and they create more. 37% of all flowers are pentagonal. The next closest is like a hexagon at like 16%. It just shows right, the pentagon is like the over, like, of all the like other geometries, the pentagon is this like stabilizing energy that's making up this construct, making up our physical bodies. And then of course now we know that we've got these 20 circles. Well, we know that these fingers make circles, our eyes are circular, our arms make circles. Our feet make circles, our little toes make circles, our hips make circles, our heads make circles, right? We know that our eyes create the optics are circular, the sound waves going in and out are the voice, the breath, all of these things are these toroidal fields of energy. Our heart is a toroidal field. And so understanding these things, that's how you begin to be able to access them and harmonize with them. Did I lose the point of
No, not at all. What I'm seeing right now, because when we were down on the beach together, I'm seeing a lot of pieces right now as you're describing all of this, how we were looking at that wall that had all the paintings of Venus.
Yeah.
And Venus is known as the five-pointed star as well because of its cycles around the sun compared to the Earth cycles. It makes a five-pointed star. And so this is actually like super powerful because one of the things I'm seeing is that just in these human shapes that we're in right now, that's you're basically saying the all sphere is
it's the makeup of everything.
It's the makeup of who we currently are.
Yeah.
What I'm getting is that at the center of the all sphere is what some call 0 point, yes, what we call the field or coherence or whatever. So with the all sphere, when we have that as the understanding of ourselves, we can actually collapse the field back into the singularity and become some other structure in creation. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's beyond pentagons and circles.
I believe so. Have I fully accessed that? I mean, I can get out of not seeing like those patterns, but I believe, I'm as a human and as a spiritual being, for me to even think that I know the complete makeup of the universes, no way. This is just part of what's making up this construct of our known, right, material and partially spiritual aspects of the Earth and our viewpoints of solar systems and galaxies. But to say that it's the complete package of everything, no way. It's infinite. I mean, this is just one perspective.
Okay, we'll just make sure we don't get...
I was just getting extra stressed. I was just getting snuggled.
They're like, this one is like right over your shoulder.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Well, yeah.
We really want to get Leo's face on here, but Leo's like, I'm cool. I'm just like feeling when you were sharing that piece, I'm inviting the universe, I'm invoking the universe actually to download into your field another system and structure of creation that we can play with and to come, because really, like I say, can we hold the all sphere up again? Because I keep looking at it, but I just really want to show it. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. So you said it's how many circles? 20?
Yep, 20. So right now, like the white ones are what are representing the circles, and then the dark ones, and then the green ones, and the flower are the pentagons.
So I'm seeing a couple of things. First of all, how trees blow in the wind. And when trees blow in the wind, even if their branches are blowing all over, their actual trunk is moving in a spiral. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because you see that.
And you can see those in like palm trees really easily, where you see like the individual eyeballs of those. And that, so like if I'm holding this sphere like this, you can see the hexagon right in the middle,
Mhm.
right? And then equilateral triangles between the white ones and the dark and that one. And so these directional angles that are going like this and like this, I like to call those like the herringbone of how energy is flowing. And it's the same for like carbon atoms, the way that the electrons and neutrons are spinning around. They're going up like this, and they're going up like this, and then there's a north-south energy, right? And like a toroidal field, the north-south energy is your more like, that's the superpower. But you still have another 5 other polarities that happen. And those aren't as like, but those are your hands and your feet. Right?
Is that the Vitruvian Man?
Exactly. That's the Vitruvian Man in the stabilizing of energy. And you can do meditations where you hold your hands out or you put them together above you. You create the actual all-sphere geometry. And that's how you can harness and pull that energy into your heart. It creates the Holy Cross and like the Kundalini flow between your left hand, which diagonals through your body and then goes out your right foot, and then same the opposite. And that's how Kundalini is creating the DNA helix up through your channel. With other spheres, you can basically, as this would rotate, there's a pattern of a sine wave that's happening like this in the equator, which is the merging of the north and south hemispheres. And if you were to look at those particular things, you would see that it's creating the flower of life through the front of the object and the back of the object. I mean, this is a whole nother talk in general, but that's just like a quick little, little intro of like the power of the geometry.
So when you say the equator, do you mean the equator of the all-sphere or the equator of the planet? And they're both the same.
All of it. It's the all-sphere, right? It's the all one almighty as far as the physical plane of the earth and the sun and our bodies go. Is that there is a northern hemisphere, which is celestial. There's the southern hemisphere, which is terrestrial. And it's infinitely expanding inwardly, outwardly, but together they harmonize to be able to stabilize in a geometry that is infinitely fractal in all directions. And that's how life is always rebirthed, right? A woman is a pentagon, but she has the power of the hexagon that comes through her. She is the water that births out new life. A masculine is a pentagon, but he also gives the seed, which can, that's still birthing out that energy. It's a liquid, it's water, right? And those two together create infinite, right? It creates another self-replication. Plants just do it more, right? Way more.
Are you saying plants are more sexual?
Yes. But that's the whole thing, is right. So here's the pentagon. So right, we know the geometry is pentagonal, and then we also know it's hexagonal. That's the balance between masculine and feminine to create the all-sphere geometry. So it's water and density, right? Masculine, feminine, that make the two together. When I first discovered this, I was in Hawaii, right, when I had first discovered this, and I had an orange. I was sitting at a cafe, and guidance just says, okay, open up the orange, right? And on the outside, on the peel, right, there's all these little dots everywhere, and then you peel it open, there's the veins going all over. And then it's like, okay, count how many slices there are, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got another orange. Same thing, right? There's the absolute minimum is that there's 10, because in the geometry, the two poles are pentagons, which is a 5 and a 5 equals 10, right? So you at least create the sphere out of 10. So an orange is a sphere. Next is that understanding that flower of a citrus is a pentagon. But we know that the celestial beings that are flying in the light, which have the rainbow frequencies of their bodies, so hummingbirds, butterflies, bees, pollinate. So they take their celestial 6 energy, right, and tap into the liquid that's in the pentagon, merging those vortexes together, boom, it makes that transformation into infinite energy and creates a fruit. And now that fruit shows it just in its simple reflection when you open it, that there are now 10 or 11, sometimes 12 or 13 little ones. And I guarantee every time there will always be at least 10. And then probably some little babies. And then, of course, within that, then you have all the seeds. And that's just one fruit off of a tree that has 1,000 fruits with 10,000 seeds, infinite energy. And that's just an orange tree.
That is all like such an, I call these adamantine particles. One of the people in our pod, Cosmia, transcribes a lot of the transmissions, pretty much all the transmissions that I share. And I'm like, Cosmia, that whole section there is incredible. Adamantine particle to be written. Absolutely divine expression of nature. And I mean, what I feel in the excitement of it, and always in your sharing, and how articulate and coherent you are in your sharing. Everything that you're sharing, I feel like the particles of my body are becoming more spacious, and I feel like I'm actually being prepared for takeoff. I feel like my energy is becoming lighter, and sort of this sensation of levitation. So, just in your articulation, what is coming through, you're sharing with all of us all of these discoveries that you've made of nature. And what I feel about this is it's the voice of nature. We were talking about this earlier. Yeah. When we allow ourselves to transcend the fallen self, the fictional self, the egoic self that has been bound to time and gravity, and structures that are very linear, when we allow ourselves to just let go of it all, which is exactly what you said, it's like a surrender, then nature begins to come through our mouth, informing us. And so as we're sitting here having a talk, there's things that come through our mouth that we're discovering simultaneously to everyone else who's participating and listening. And that's how nature is evolving us all, like it or not, from the inside out. And so basically everything we're sharing is how to ride the wave of the natural transformation that's happening within us and go with nature rather than resist nature, because we always say nature has the final say, and anything that is not aligned with nature itself is just going to dissolve away. Would you say that that's the case?
Yeah, I always like to say nature will always win. You might as well join the winning team.
I say something very similar. I always say, yeah, you want her her on your team.
Why would you go against what's infinite beauty? It doesn't make sense. Absolutely, it's insanity.
And that's the great joy that becomes liberated in all of us, masculine and feminine, because everyone's been, from the fictional world, was carrying the distortions that really took us away from nature, and that denigration of nature. What I've noticed myself is, being in an area that's very, draws a lot of tourists, and I just like to say I'm in the crystalline core of creation. And if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. I've noticed that the pop culture, really sold life down the river. There's an aspect of pop culture that is so dishonoring of life. It's like grunge and diss and, all of that energy. That's what I've observed for myself recently in just being one with nature and emanating this field and seeing how, people you were talking about making a lot of money and being depressed, and how it's because when we're in patterns that are not aligned with nature, we will not feel good inside of ourselves. And so exactly what you say, she's going to win. You might as well be on the winning team and making these transformations now in ourselves. So is there anything else that you feel is really relevant to share about the all sphere, or and then we can talk about kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the all-sphere, that's a whole nother thing, just straight all-sphere session. Yeah. That one has to be farther distance away, where I can literally go through the movements of the geometry and show how to move these energies and how to harness these energies and how to dispel energies and move energies out of your field. Because it's all, the geometry and the energy is all within us, and we have it, and you can do all sorts of things with it.
I've realized that the fan has been spinning above your head the whole time, and that view is kind of cool.
Right, and then it's all about, right, how to become a creator instead of letting outside sources create your reality for you.
That's so cool. Any other sharings? Anything in your heart you feel?
That's the big one.
Anything from the peanut gallery?
Yeah, giggle more, laugh.
I have a million questions.
Oh my gosh.
What came up before, what we're so grateful for, is the Venusian man. How do you say
Vitruvian.
it? Vitruvian man. That how it ties into the all-sphere and the grids, the Rochelle grids, and also the cross, Yeshua on the cross. And we just felt, we was mentioning all of that, how to unlock our free energy, but we feel like to tie that into what's happened with the consciousness a lot, where why would we ever crucify? Why was the cross like the tie into these spheres and the nails in the hands?
Into the chi.
Yeah, the chi, like all these chi points, and that's been part of the church, of devouring and worshiping literally this experience that we would be reflected within ourselves of that betrayal, really, of the consciousness, and believe that would be something we would look up to. Like, we feels to bring that in of how the church and how the Christ consciousness has been misinterpreted in many ways, of what the true free energy of unlocking of love and circuitry of truth really means.
Well, it's a great comment, and what comes to me is Carl Kalaman's 9 Waves of Consciousness, and how Carl Kalaman explained what the Mayans were explaining to us with their 9 waves, with their 9 levels, their 9 pyramids. A lot of temples in Asia are 9 levels as well. And so in his book, what he shows is that the planetary consciousness was emanating different vibrational energy at different times, which affected the brain in different ways. So, when so the first phase of consciousness was, if we were looking at time, which isn't real, but it's like billions and billions of years, that first level of the Mayan pyramids. And then with each pyramid that you go up, the time inside of that experience shortens. And he showed how the planetary emanations, because we have 2 hemispheres of the brain, and it's sometimes the planetary emanations he showed how they affected different lobes of the brain at different times to allow for different experiences. And, he's saying that we've been in a holographic experiment, and that as we moved into 9th wave, the planetary emanation that is coming through allows us to come into whole brain state. So as spirits inside of these bodies having an experience, really what all the teachings share is how to make the shift inside of this incredible technology to stay on the wave. And if the ego is running the show, then the body can't make the shifts. We need more to bring more spirit, which is all these breathing techniques and looking in the mirror and everything that you've been sharing about, is what allows us to get more spirit, more space, more coherence, more 0 point into the form, so that the emanation from the planetary consciousness can shift the vibration of the particles of our body, the atoms and the particles of our body, to make the shift to stay on the planetary wave, go with the consciousness itself. So at that level, there is no really good, there is no good or evil. There's no good guy or bad guy. He just explains in his book that we've gone through these different holographic experiences based on the different parts of the brain that have been lit up. So it's kind of like we came into an avatar for an experience, and that avatar was affected by the planetary body itself. And one of the things that's really interesting about his book is that to move into ninth wave, which is considered in these Mayan teachings and different traditional teachings, ninth wave consciousness is the ultimate, and it's unity. And he has a chapter in his book called The Hologram of Good and Evil. And he shares that in order to move into the ninth wave, one must clear that hologram, one must clear that program from inside of themselves in totality to actually experience ninth wave consciousness in our physicality, which is why we always say these transmissions are not like picking on anyone. They're for every being on the planet. These transmissions are equal regardless of, you know, color or shape or size or bloodline or role that anyone has played in the play. That's why at the beginning of this transmission we said we're really here to share truth, because truth is the simplistic understanding that there's a transformation going on with the particles of physicality, the particles of the planetary body, the particles of form. Nature shows us metamorphosis, caterpillar to the butterfly, and so on. And so we're just sharing things to help everyone understand that the old systems are going down, like it or not. It's nature's way, and you know, it can feel like cataclysm on any kind of level when we are attached to the external reality itself. It's why the Hopi prophecy said, you know, that the red hats would come from the east, small in number, and they would bring the teachings for us to collapse the polarity inside of ourselves. If we didn't receive the teachings by the end of this time cycle, which they called the fourth world, they said that our survival would be contingent on the quality of our heart. And that is our realignment, reattunement with nature itself. So they were giving us the instructions. They were just telling us cosmically that the planetary body was about to take a vibrational shift in energy. And if we wanted to move along with the planet itself, here are the instructions. That's what they called it. They just said we are providing the instructions of how to make the shift inside of ourselves, which is why we're going to keep sharing all these love streams and invite people to remove their consent from systems and structures that are not based on nature itself. Not because we're an enemy of the state or any of those kinds of things. We are just sharing truth itself to help our human family come into alignment with nature and come into the alignment with the shift itself. So we could go into the stories of the church and all those things, but the stories are collapsing themselves because the stage that they were played out on, the stage has collapsed itself. That's why people feel different inside of themselves, why old relationships, old addictions, old patterns just don't do it anymore, because the stage is gone, because the vibrational energy coming from the planetary body is instructing us. Nature is sending us instructions herself. We are just messengers of nature. We're just messengers of nature itself. So.
And I will share, just because we were just talking about these things. So when I had discovered the all-sphere, right, and the Hathors had done the thing, and I went and understood that, you know, it took me to the ancient Egyptian, you know, and I started basically just translating hieroglyphics. Mayan hieroglyphics, Egyptian hieroglyphics, Incans, Native Americans, Aborigines, and it was all pretty much pointing to the exact same thing. It's all about the reverence of nature, the circles and the cycles of nature, right? It's about the seed, the harvesting, the fruits, and giving it back and allowing the cycles to happen. To, you know, embody in certain moments in your life when you need spirit, you know, when you need to like embody an energy of an animal to help you through something, right? It's part of the oneness. It's like well, he's not that headed God. It's like there's aspects within that information that can help you through the scenarios, because nature is a divine reflection always in every animal, showing you secrets how to help you through situations. That's what it's here for. You're it. You're part of it. You're one with this thing, and here are the little messengers helping you to figure it out. You know? So that's where it's get rid of all these distractions of material realms created by humans. None of that is harmonic to nature, which is the infinite truth of creation.
Cosmia, that's an adamantine particle.
And so the thing too is, right, we have the left and the right hemispheres. So part of the training is to bring the balance, right, between the two. And so one, like the all sphere, I do meditations just with the all sphere where I'm just gazing at it, and I can control the movement of the all sphere in my visual, because I'm going between the left and the right hemisphere. And you can start to differentiate the two hemispheres, and then to learn how to harmonize them. There's meditations where I do like out on the ocean. It's just like I'm out. I was like doing this ecstatic dance, and then the universe is like, okay, here's what you're gonna do. Go like this with your hands. Do this and create this geometry, and now you're gonna basically go between your left and your right eyes, and you're staring at the sun. So you're creating this geometry. I forgot which one. It was one of these. But basically, you create the geometry, and this is, it's sacred geometry. You're creating basically like the, Taj Mahal, or like, the Kremlin, right? It's inverted. So you go between your left and your right eyeballs, and you see how the sun moves. And if you allow yourself to just like start to see what the left and right hemisphere is doing, you can bring the sun into the center, and you can actually create a little Vesica Pisces, because you're balanced between seeing this way and this way. You're right. It's the intersection between the two, and so you're balancing yourself with this golden orb with sacred geometry, which is good for you, right?
Wow,
it's very powerful, because you're right. These things are getting harmonized, and that's the secret. Is you're harmonizing all these parts. It's like, what are we taught in school? What side's your dominant foot? Which one do you throw better with? And then that's the one. Yep, that to compete, you got to get that thing to its like maximum capacity. Forget about that other one, right? Completely not what you want to do. The secret is to I'm going to throw equally as powerful with that side. And that's it, right? You're training to get all of this stuff right, balanced.
You just got a kiss from a unicorn on that one.
Perfect. Right? Yeah. It's like no domination. Harmonize your field.
Yeah, that's what we always share about is coherence. Do the crossovers, the harmonization of the brain itself. And there was something really important in what you did. Oh, the dominant foot. It's interesting as well how, in some, I've heard people say like the left brain is feminine, the right brain is masculine. And I'm like, that's not what I've known. I've always known the right brain to be masculine, the right brain to be feminine, the left brain to be masculine, or the right brain to be the intuitive, the left to be the logical. But recently, my yoga instructor was saying it the other way, and I've heard that so many times, and I'm like, that's just more misinformation about the hemispheres of the brain, which has been taught to so many people who still... And not that it matters, when we bring coherence to our brain simultaneously, there is a reason that children were not allowed to write with their left hand, because the right hemisphere controls the left side of the brain, the left controls the right side of the brain, and those who were writing with their left hands were opening up the intuitive world. So it's quite surprising to me how often I hear people saying the right hemisphere is the logical, linear, and saying it in the wrong way. And it's just like, clearly, well, why were kids slapped on the hands with rulers by their teachers if the right brain, which controls the left hand, was linear? Because that's not what was taught in schools.
And a lot of it too, right, is like there's so many perspectives, especially nowadays with this social media, and just like it's chaos. That's why it is so important to find our centers so that we can distinguish the truth apart from what everybody else is trying to tell you or manipulate you or into what the truth is. You can only truly feel it, and then feel it in your gut, and then you'll start to really receive the stuff to really differentiate what's legit and what's not. And it might be different for you than somebody else. Everybody is unique, right? Sure, we're made up of the same body parts, but we are completely a unique speck of the universe. So therefore, there can always be little things. It's like with 2020 vision. I'm like, oh, so everything is unique about us, but our vision is the same? I don't buy that, personally. And when I don't wear glasses, and I have, I can wear glasses if I need to see road signs and crispness. But as far as energy goes, get the glasses out of my way. I can see a bird flying with his energy trail from a mountain away and know what the bird is. Because I got out of the logical mind of that's the right? It's clear that stuff out and just allow the universe to provide you with the wisdom.
He was just speaking a bit of mine there. That was down. Yeah, and that's such a good point. And the whole thing about IQ, and when you go to an eye doctor and they have their little eye map, and there's this great story about Monet, that as he aged, he started to get cataracts, and all the doctors wanted to operate on his cataracts, and he was like, "Are you kidding me? I've waited my whole life to see this way."
Yeah.
And so that perception of medicine and so on about what is the norm, and it's nature doesn't really have a norm.
Yeah.
You might have a lot of dragonflies, but each one is unique. You might have a lot of snowflakes. Well, we know every snowflake is unique. And that's just such a significant piece that, to really be invoking that power within us, as you say, to know the truth within ourselves, and then to be able to express it, which is art. That's what true art is what you're sharing with us today is it's the true expression of the cosmos is art, and you have the capacity to articulate it and share it in a way, and someone may be tapping into the very same things as you and share and articulate it in a completely different way. And that brings us back to when we were asking you the questions about how to make these shifts in your life. And one of the things you said was create, get into creativity and create, and really trust. I feel like that's an important piece to remind people again is, in school you have to draw inside the lines and all those kinds of things. And in all the pods that I've played with, it's the guidance is always helping people to come into an intuitive creation, not creation from the mind, not what looks good, bad, right, wrong, but how to access that flow of energy again, to just let it create through us. And that's why in the Mayans said that we were moving into the greatest renaissance ever at the end of time. 2021, December 21st, 2021 really represented the end of time and the beginning of the greatest renaissance ever, which again is why remove our consent, not because we're trying to crash systems, not because we're enemies of anything. It's just helping people to understand it's time to draw our energy inward, to bring that internal balance, and then to find the downloads coming in so that we can share and express them, as you said. So it becomes this whole experience of collaboration. Now we're collaborating with cosmic information that each one of us can uniquely access. That's why the mind cannot resolve the problems inside of the thinking that created it, because the mind that we've come from is the egoic mind. That which is beyond the mind resolves everything. There are no problems at this level. There's just creativity and creation going on, and that's a completely different way of experiencing existence. And I'm just seeing so many things in the field right now. I mean, I'm seeing your home in the hillside and just everything in your field, and the potential for so many of us to just move into that joyous state together and just leave this all behind.
Yeah. My final things are, if you've ever been in school, so remember what I'm saying, about Hitler and the presidents and the things doing the thing to wield power over you. many of us in other countries, not just America, as a little kid, you had to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, blah, 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 blah. So, right, you put your hand, which is, we know the chi, it's up in this hemisphere of power control, onto your heart. And it's programming you into this system. Well, we know the system is majorly flawed. So I invite you all to place your hand on your heart and pledge allegiance to something you want to pledge your allegiance to, like the earth, to nature, to abundance, to love, to beauty, to beautiful, expansive, communicative relationships of bliss, harmony, abundance, da 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 da. And the last are, right, at every single moment of time, we have the devil and we have the angel sitting on our shoulders, which is our ego and spirit. And so at all moments of time, you have a choice. Do you choose the path that is the harmful thing or the good thing? I invite you to choose the good one. That's where the miracles lie. That's all.
Sky horse. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. And how can people find your creations and?
So yeah, Instagram, the All Sphere, which is the ALLSPHYR. And Nathan Skyhorse is the other one. That's also, the All Sphere is also my website.
I'll put those links in the description box, and you can do the same in yours.
Amazing.
Wow, on 33369.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, here's this.
That's fine. I think it's still working.
I just want to make sure it's still filmed. We love so much.
Thank you, Peanut Gallery.
Yeah.
You've been amazing. Thank you to our audience of amazing humans.
Co-creators.
Everyone who joined, we're sharing all our love.
Way to receive the vibrations, and now that's amplifying out into your space.
Peanut Gallery, come.
Yep. Here's the behind the scenes.
My tune.
Okay.
Keep going over here to Miss Loop.
There we
Wants
go.
to be shy.
Okay.
Come in here. Hang on. Here's our star family.
Yeah.
Out to all of our
Don't forget the phone down there too.
family, star family.
Yeah.
And the
and
kisses,
our unicorns.
They're
I love you so
That's
much.
right. Freeing the unicorn mystical creatures.
Yes, but Cherie, can you bring the other kisses in behind you there?
Look at all these hearts. Look at all those hearts flying.
Did we get them all? Wait, there's one more. There's one more.
Hey.
kiss.
The little guy.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Now we're talking. Yes. Mystical and earthly relations unite.
This is the flight lessons to Narnia.
Flight lessons.
Exactly.
This flight ship is about to take off, so if you want to join, just...
And you know how to fly now.
Yeah. Should we hold the all sphere up too? Cherie, can you just... There we go. We know how to fly. We love you so much. And remember, if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting.
Freeing the lion and the unicorn.
Yes.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Oh my god! Oh my goodness!
Wow. That's great. Oh yeah, a little extra hug.
That's the little one that sleeps on my
Was it really?
chest every. Oh, hang on, we gotta turn off the speaker. We're in celebration.
Skyhorse. When is Wee's birthday?
Me first.
Is we a Taurus?
Yep.
And in the
Well, I just recently found out.